Good evening, welcome to Central News for Monday the 5th of August. I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, as the debate of the government's GCSB bill continues, many locals are concerned over the power the bill allows. The bill passed its second reading in Parliament on Thursday last week, 61 to 59, and will now enter the committee stage. Many locals in Tauranga joined a nationwide protest against the bill on the 28th of July. Tauranga protest organiser Graham Cameron says that all New Zealanders should be concerned because of the infringements of the Privacy Act.
It's a really broad expansion of the powers of the GCSB, and with that extension there's really little accountability. So I think people at all levels in our society can see that they suddenly have their ownership and authority over their communications taken away from them.
The digital switchover has begun around the country, and it's not long until our regions will be switched on. The Bay of Plenty and the Waikato are part of the last section of the country to switch over on December the 1st. National Manager Greg Hardford says the rest of the country has gone without a glitch.
It's gone really smoothly. Certainly in the South Island, most people knew what they needed to do and went digital before the deadline.
Now for our region's weather, Hamilton, your Tuesday will have cloudy periods with a few showers and a westerly. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 5. Tauranga, you will have the odd shower tomorrow with an expected high of 17 and an overnight low of 7. Just ahead, we catch up with the Mayor of Tauranga. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. A lot of changes have happened over the last couple of months in Tauranga. I caught up with the Mayor to see what is happening with the ever-topical car parks in the city.
Yes, we've actually broken down the car parking into 3 zones. Before you could only stay for 1 or 2 hours, now you can stay as long as you like, providing you pay the amount of money per hour, so it could be from $1 an hour to $3 an hour. So far it's early days yet, there's always resistance when we change parking, but we'll just have to wait and see the impact of that.
Another new addition to the city centre is the new playground on the waterfront. How is the grand opening and whereabouts are you up to with the waterfront upgrade?
Yeah, the new playground was stage 3 of 10 stages of about $5.5 million worth of development into the waterfront. The playground's been a phenomenal success, even in the middle of winter, because I look over it out of my office, is chocker. And come summertime, it's going to be even more busier. So there's a water jet element to it as well, and so that will be utilised. But it's been an incredible success, and starting to get some feedback as well that parents are bringing their children obviously into the city to utilise the playground and staying around and having a cup of coffee and things like that. The next elements into that area will be actually coffee carts and things to create a little bit more activity. So that's kind of stage 4, and we hope to have that in place before Christmas.
What is happening with your draft disability strategy?
Yes, at last we've finally got a draft disability strategy out. It's something I've been pushing for some time and supported by my councillor, Councillor Tony Christensen. And so it's quite a simple one, you know, it's not that difficult, based on the New Zealand disability strategy with some tweaks for our local environment. So we'll get some feedback from that fairly shortly and be implementing it. But basically it's just common sense, it's not really that difficult, but it has been incredibly well received.
The council has opened a $30,000 iwi hapu management plan fund. Who can apply for that?
We have 3 iwi here in Tauranga, another 4th one on the fringe, but the point of that fund is to assist them in making their own iwi development management plans that bolt into our planning and our budgeting. So it's something that's been requested for some time. So it's not just about iwi, obviously it's generally about land and land use, and so we will utilise a lot of that information for our decision making as well as we move forward.
Why does the council think that that's important?
Iwi own a considerable amount of land within Tauranga City. They are the biggest landowner. They're also probably the biggest business element in our city as well, in terms of kiwi fruit farming, etc., and also fishery rights. So they have a huge influence on our economy, so it makes sense that we actually collaborate and work together on planning as we move forward.
2 tsunami bridges have been completed in Papamoa. That's actually part of your wider project for predicting where floodwaters will go. So where are we up to in that project?
Tsunami Survive is what we've called that project, so a lot of information has gone out to the community already, and it's really about them being prepared and self-help. Don't expect the council or the government to come and save you in the first few hours of an emergency, because that simply doesn't happen. So it's really about identifying some of the signals, like a major earthquake if there's going to be a tsunami, and what to do. So that's one element. The other element is evacuation strategies, so we're still preparing a lot of work on that, as well as infrastructure. And the second one, or third one, is really about inundation mapping. So if a tsunami comes, where is the water going to go? And you don't actually have to leave the coastal strip for that. That's not actually true. The reality is about 60,000 people couldn't anyway in a hurry. So it's about where are the higher lands you could go to, where are the safer areas, do you actually have to leave your home? So that information has been collated now, and that will be distributed again as ongoing communication and information with regard to the potential of a tsunami. Bearing in mind the last time we had one where people actually had to leave the area was 600 years ago.
Freedom Camping has caused quite a stir with some residents. So what's that new bylaw?
We had a draft bylaw out for consultation. Now this has been a problem up and down New Zealand. It's not just a Tauranga problem, but when you do have, you know, a beautiful long white beach and inner harbours and estuaries where freedom campers wish to camp, it needs to be managed. So what the council's trying to do is just get the balance right, stay within the law, and also make sure that the amenity of our city is not disrupted by too many camper vans staying all over the place for long periods. My personal view is that people should have a right to travel around New Zealand freely, but when they start to impinge en masse on other areas of our community, that needs to be managed, and that's the trick, trying to get that balance right.
There are quite a few restrictions with that bylaw. I mean, you can only park in some places from Sunday to Thursday only. Amano Surf Club is only one vehicle, 3.5 tonnes. It's quite complicated. So how are you going to inform people and police it?
Well, I've actually declared an interest on this whole subject because my family is involved in a camping ground, so I'm kind of off the edge of it. But yes, my view is the current draft bylaw is far too complicated. It's probably unenforceable because we don't have the staff to do it. So hopefully in the review, once I've heard the submissions, they'll simplify it, make it nice and simple, then people can understand it and then communicate it.
And when is that likely?
That will be done in August and September of this year.
Visit tauranga.gov.nz to find out more about any of the topics discussed tonight. Coming up, we look at the fireplaces in our homes and how to use them without harm to the environment. Welcome back. The Tui Company in the Bay of Plenty has been around for over 100 years. Always on the lookout for new green-fingered products to create. Scott joins me in the studio tonight. So, tell us about this new product.
Okay, there's two new products under the Fire Magic banner, Hilary. One is a fire starter, okay, ease of lighting a fire without the use of kindling or kerosene blocks. And the other is under the Fire Magic banner again, a New Zealand-made and manufactured briquette. Both of these products are made from recycled products, to a better word, yeah.
What kind of products are they?
Okay, so the fire starter, first of all, is made up of compressed cardboard, okay, and the briquettes are made up of a recycled timber from a sister company of ours called Niagara Timber out of Invercargill. We import the fire starters, and again, predominantly used to start a fire without the need for kindling.
So how did the idea come about? Why do you guys want to get into this?
Look, I suppose Tui Products predominantly, we're a company whereby we predominantly in the gardening sector, and we needed to find that winter product, the silver bullet, I suppose, to help us out there. And for us to bring something onto the market, it needs to be fresh, it needs to be unique, and with a green-fingered friendly feeling to it as well. So first, the product, the IP came out of Ireland, and this is the fire starter, and very predominantly used throughout Ireland, throughout the UK, and we thought we definitely could find a market for it in New Zealand. The briquette, again with our sister company Niagara, a lot of waste timber that they had, and so we've made up these fantastic briquettes, and the testing that we've done with these briquettes has certainly been fantastic. Great results. So
theoretically, it would just be thrown out, these little bits of brick, little bits of timber, really.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of waste timber from the mills, and that is then put through a compression process, and we come out with a 6-pack of briquettes. And so it's very interesting, very good, and like I said, the results are fantastic.
It's great that we're using these these parts that So tell us about the Bay Plenty-based Tui company.
Okay, well, Tui predominantly based in Mount Maunganui, and pretty much our focus really is on potting mix, compost, fertilisers, lawn seed. We also have a fairly large pet division whereby we specialise in bird seed and small animal products as well. We also have distribution outlets both in Christchurch and out of Invercargill as well. So small or smallish New Zealand owned and operated company, 5 independent shareholders, and it's very exciting. And I suppose one thing a lot of people in New Zealand don't really know about is that Tui's been around for over 100 years. So very strong brand. Started off in the seed and grain merchant industry down in the Palmerston North in the Manawatu region, and has since expanded from there.
And I mean, because I was quite surprised, I didn't know that it had been around for over 100 years, but I also didn't realise that it was predominantly Bay of Plenty based.
Yeah, that's right. We've always had a division in the Bay of Plenty and also Palmerston North. Since we've moved our Bay of Plenty, our Palmerston North branch up to Bay of Plenty, and that's probably been the last 11, 12 years. The current site, we've outgrown that site, what we're currently on, and we're just under development of a new 8-acre site just down the road from Bay Park Stadium, and we're due to move in there late February. So in the Bay of Plenty, we've flown under the radar, I suppose, predominantly in the past few years. We came away with the Westpac Business Awards Business of the Year last year, which we were very proud about, and we currently employ around about 72 to 80 people throughout the Bay of Plenty.
Wow, yeah. So how else do you guys get involved with the community in the Bay?
We sponsor a lot of gardening clubs and whatnot as well. We also have a schools garden challenge, which is becoming more and more popular. Schools throughout New Zealand can register online at our Tui Garden website. We send them out a starter pack, and they just send through updated photos of their garden throughout the next 2 to 3 months. And we've got great prizes and whatnot to give away, and that has a great community feel about it as well, Hilary.
Now, going back to this eco-friendly product, so when you were in this initial stage, I understand there was quite some interesting statistics that you could
that's right, especially with the briquettes. As I said before, we just don't like to bring out any old product onto the market. We thought, one, it has to have a point of difference, and two's got to be unique. So the process of manufacturing is quite different compared to other manufactured logs out on the market. We had the logs manufactured and sent away to a third-party testing company in Nelson, and the two major things that came out, each log or briquette has 80 minutes of burn time, which is massive, and also is the hottest burning manufactured fuel on the market. So those two were fantastic, and we thought we'd bring them out and really taking this game by storm, so it's good.
Well, thank you very much. Always good to hear there's some eco-friendly products out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned, as up next we hear some poetry. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. The Western Bay of Plenty Play Centre Association are in the midst of an exciting adventure, creating a book of poetry for children. The poems have been chosen through a competition. I caught up with the judge, Marcel Curran, to find out what makes a winning children's poem and the massive amount of entries they got.
We had 220 entries to the poem competition. Most of those were adults writing for children, so there were different categories, 0 to 7 and 7 to 12-year-olds, so adults writing for those categories. And we had a few children writing as well as children.
What were you looking for in those winning 15?
The brief, I've got the brief here. The brief was pretty simple. It was, we're seeking poems that explore wordplay and metrical beats, so activity and counting poems, especially with New Zealand content. Most of all, we want poems that are fun to read aloud and listen to. So I was looking for poems that embraced the fun and joy of language, but also they had to appeal to the target audience, which is play centre age kids age up to 12.
What is the difference between a poem for children and a regular poem, I guess?
That's a difficult question. What is the difference between a poem for children and a regular poem? A poem for children has to be simple enough to be embraced by the kid. It can't be too highfalutin, and it has to be fun and immediate. Yet there's no reason why a poem for children can't be the best poem in the world for grown-ups as well. So a couple of the poems that I chose as winners appealed on both levels. They would appeal to kids and grown-ups as well. But most of the children's poems are just that little bit more simple. So and I don't want to read out aloud the winners here. So I can't give you any examples, which is why it's a little bit hard to answer that question.
You yourself are a poet. So what inspires your poetry?
I love poems that have words that roll around in your mouth, like imagine a hard-boiled lolly in your mouth, and it just I love poetry that wrestles with words and is just fun to say, and I love poetry that the joy of poetry is the power of a poem is that it can say something in a way that only a poem can. It can take you on a journey. It can just be a really subtle, quiet thing, but only a poem can do that. It's kind of tricky to explain in words. It's ironic that I'm not very good at explaining about a poem in words. I'd have to write a poem about how to explain that.
Do you think it is harder to write poetry for children?
Oh, it's so much more difficult to write a poem for kids. I mean, that's what I saw. It was so evident judging these poems. There were all these people, and they'd so obviously put in a lot of hard work trying, and they'd written all these great attempts at poems, but it's so difficult. Like, especially if you're writing for kids and you want to use rhyme, it's a lot harder to use rhyme than you actually think. Say like a simple poem like "Bar bar black sheep, have you any wool?" It's a very simple, straightforward rhyme structure. But if you wanted to mess that around and go "Bar bar black sheep, tell me why you are so cool." I mean, I'm making this up. I'm trying to come up with a bad example of the poem. But what people do, I had a lot of entries where people were forcing rhyme and rhythm into corners that it didn't belong, and it would be a bit awkward, and then they'd twist the sentences around, and instead they'd say "Bar bar black sheep, you are so cool, tell me what." I'm making it up. I'm failing at writing a bad poem on the spot for you.
Now we catch up with the masterminds behind the competition to find out how the book is coming together. Tell us about the covers. There's something special there, isn't there?
It is. We have commissioned a local artist who's involved in one of our play centres, in Westerkoff, and she has been working eagerly and conscientiously on a cover, and we're really pleased with what we've got so far. I believe she's got one more piece that she's been working on drying on a rack for us, so we've had several to choose from. It's just going to be a wonderful cover around nature, and we've got a title, but I'm not going to tell you what that is right now. People will have to wait until the book comes out.
So when will the book be published?
The book will come out in October in conjunction, I think, with Ocean Books and their next event. So I'm busy working away on putting the poems in, sorting out the graphics, and getting our play centre community together to help the process, and everybody's putting their little bits and pieces in. Yeah.
Now, Jenny, you're actually a poet yourself. So what do you think makes a good poem for children?
I think it's a poem that takes account of their age and what development stage they're at, but makes no concessions to it. You get down to the child's age, but not in any condescending way. It's a poem that either confirms what they know and presents it in a new light, or introduces them in a fun way to something they don't know. Maybe gives them, say, you might have a poem about a park and playing on the swings. That's a fairly ordinary experience. And then a poet might come along with a poem about an elephant in the park. And so they see the park is the familiar location. They see that in a different way, and they get to know the elephant in a familiar location. So it's also fun with words. If there's an element of fun and wit in how the words are put together, that actually tells children that language is a fun thing to acquire.
What inspires your poetry?
There's only 3 things that can ever inspire any poet or any poem: an idea, an emotion, or an observation. There's nothing else in the world, if you think about it.
How do you write poetry specifically for children?
Well, I don't write all that much, I must be frank, although I did put together this poetry pudding, which was a collection of Kiwi poems by Kiwi poets for Kiwi kids. Was published by Reed, and we had great fun with that. And it was wonderful to see what established and beginning poets offered us. And that's what I'm looking forward to with the book for the Play Centre Association. I think we're going to have another winner there.
Why do you think this book is so important then?
I think it's what Tommy Kapai Wilson talks about when he uses the phrase, books from our own backyard. I think that's why the mysterious and not to be disclosed title is absolutely appropriate. And also poetry. I always say to grown-up writers and to children, if I'm teaching them, if you can write a good poem, you can write anything. Poetry allows certain liberties. And so if all writing comes from reading, which I also believe it does, then starting their reading with poems, nursery rhymes, activity poems, 1, 2, buckle my shoe, 3, 4, knock at the door. Kids love those kinds of poems. Again, the message is words are fun and you can put them together in different ways. And if we have language, we know who we are and we know how to tell the world about it.
The book will be out in October and we will keep you posted. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook. Let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I'll be here again tomorrow night with more guests from in and around our regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.